Have you ever met an amazing guy, felt that electric connection, only to watch his interest fade for no reason? You're left confused, replaying every text, every date, wondering, what went wrong? Here's the hard truth. There's a silent attraction killer most women don't even realize they're making. It's not about looks, your personality, or even what you said. It's something deeper. A mistake that quietly pushes men away, making you seem desperate even when you're not. And here's the painful irony. The more you do these things, the less he wants you. But what if I told you there's a simple shift, one that doesn't require pretending to be someone you're not, that can make him chase you instead of pull away? It starts with flipping the script. From does he like me to does he meet my standards? Because when you become the prize, everything changes. Want to know the exact steps? Keep watching. Because what you do next could be the difference between him ghosting or fighting to keep you. You know, one of the biggest things I see women do, and I get it, I really do, is they meet a guy they really like, and suddenly they're doing all the work. They're texting first, double messaging when he doesn't reply fast enough, always the one suggesting plans, always making sure he knows how interested they are. And at first it feels like you're just being proactive, right? Like you're taking charge of your love life. But here's the hard truth. Over pursuing is the fastest way to kill a man's interest. Because here's what happens in his mind when you're the one doing all the chasing. He stops feeling like he has to. And attraction doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in tension. It grows when he's wondering, does she like me? When he's curious, when he's putting an effort to find out. But if you're always there, always reaching out, always making it easy for him, that mystery disappears. And so does the spark. I want you to think about this for a second. Have you ever had a guy chase you? Like really pursue you? Remember how good that felt? It wasn't just because you liked him. It was because he showed you that you were worth the effort. That's what makes attraction deepen. But when you're the one doing all the chasing, you're robbing him of that opportunity. You're taking away his chance to step up and prove he's into you. And worse, you're training him to take you for granted. Because here's the thing, men are wired to pursue what excites them because it's what they know. It's not about playing games. It's about human nature. When something feels too available, too certain, the brain starts to lose that dopamine hit of, I need to go after this. And that's when you hear those frustrating stories. He was so into me at first, and then he just faded. Yeah, because you handed him all the power too soon. Now, I'm not saying you should play hard to get in some fake, manipulative way. That's not what this is about. This is about understanding the difference between showing interest and chasing interest. Showing interest is flirting, smiling, giving him a clear signal that you're open to him stepping forward. Chasing is doing all the stepping for him. One builds attraction, the other drains it. So what does this look like in real life? Let's say you've been texting a guy and the conversation's going well, but then he doesn't reply. The old you might panic and send a follow-up text. Hey, did you see my last message? Because you don't want the conversation to die. But the new you lets it sit. Because if he's into you, he'll come back. And if he doesn't, you just saved yourself weeks of chasing someone who wasn't that invested. Or maybe you've been on a few dates and you're waiting for him to ask you out again. The old you might drop a hint, I'm free this weekend, hoping he'll take the bait. But the new you let him plan the next date, because a man who's truly interested won't need hints. He'll make it happen. And if he doesn't, you don't want a man who needs to be nudged into wanting you. This is the shift that changes everything. Stop worrying about whether he likes you and start asking whether you even like him, based on how he's showing up. Because the right man won't leave you guessing. The right man won't make you chase. The right man will want to step forward as long as you let him. So take your foot off the gas. Stop filling the silence. Let him come to you and watch how quickly the dynamic changes when he's the one trying to win your interest. That's when you'll know it's real. You know, one of the biggest things I see that kills attraction before it even has a chance to grow is this idea that more is better. That if you just show up more, text more, give more, he'll suddenly realize how amazing you are and commit. But here's the truth, it doesn't work like that. In fact, it often has the opposite effect. Because when you're always there, always available, always the one reaching out, you take away something crucial, his ability to want you. Think about it. When was the last time you craved something that was constantly handed to you? When was the last time you truly missed someone who never gave you the space to? We don't value what we don't have to work for, what we don't get the chance to desire. And that's why mystery isn't a game, it's a necessity. It's not about playing hard to get, it's about being someone worth the effort. So many people confuse connection with constant contact. Their life story, their feelings, their schedule, it'll create intimacy. But real intimacy isn't built on oversharing. It's built on anticipation. It's the slow unraveling of layers that keeps someone intrigued. Imagine reading a book where every twist is revealed in the first chapter. You'd put it down. The same goes for attraction. If he already knows everything about you, where's the curiosity? Where's the pull to discover more? This is why scarcity matters, not because you're withholding, but because you're giving him the gift of missing you. When you're not always available, when you have a life that excites you outside of him, it does something powerful. It makes your time together valuable. It shifts the dynamic from, will she be there, to, I hope she's free. And that's where real pursuit begins. I've seen it time and time again. The moment a woman stops filling every silence, stops being the one to bridge every gap, is the moment he starts stepping forward. Because suddenly there's space for him to wonder, to initiate, to invest. And investment is everything. You don't fall for what's always in front of you. You fall for what you've had to reach for. So instead of giving all of yourself at once, let there be room for him to meet you halfway. Let there be conversations that leave him wanting more. Dates that end while the energy is still high. Moments where he's the one reaching out because he can't wait to see you. That's how you build something that lasts. Not by force, but by allowing the natural pull of attraction to do its work. Because at the end of the day, the right man won't just want you. He'll want to earn you. And that starts when you give him the chance to. You know, one of the biggest mistakes I see people make, and it's a mistake that kills attraction faster than anything else, is when someone puts all their energy into chasing love instead of becoming the kind of person love chases. Think about it. When you're so focused on whether he likes you, whether he's texting you, whether he's going to commit, you're giving away all your power. And the irony is, the more you do that, the less interested he becomes. Because attraction doesn't grow in the soil of desperation. It grows in the space of confidence. So let me ask you this. When was the last time you felt truly alive in your own life? Not because of him, not because of some future relationship you're hoping for, but because of you. Because here's the truth. Nothing is more attractive than someone who is already fulfilled. Because if you can set your heart on something that you can control, nothing is more attractive than someone who is already fulfilled. A man doesn't want to feel like he's the source of your happiness. He wants to feel like he's adding to it. And that shift from needing him to choosing him is everything. I get it though. When you really like someone, it's easy to fall into the trap of making them the center of your world. You start rearranging your schedule just in case he texts. You replay conversations in your head, analyzing every word. You hold back on your own passions because you don't want to seem too busy or too intense. But here's the problem. The moment you dim your own light to make room for his, you become less of what drew him to you in the first place. Think about the people you're most drawn to in life. They're not the ones waiting around for someone to validate them. They're the ones who are out there living, people with their own passions, their own friendships, their own sense of purpose. That energy is irresistible. Because when you're fully engaged in your own life, you're not sitting around overanalyzing his mixed signals. You're too busy being someone he wants to send a clear signal to. And this is where most people get it backward. They think, if I just show him how much I care, he'll realize how great I am. But that's not how attraction works. Attraction isn't about convincing someone to see your worth. It's about embodying it so naturally that they can't look away. It's the difference between saying, pick me, and letting him think, I need to step up if I want to be with her. So how do you get there? It starts with filling your own cup first. When was the last time you did something just because it lit you up? Not because it looked good on social media, not because it might impress him, but because it made you feel like the best version of yourself. That's the energy that pulls people in, because when you're genuinely happy, when you're pursuing things that excite you, you stop emitting that nervous, do you like me vibe, and start radiating something far more powerful. I like myself, and that's enough. And here's the best part. When you operate from that place, you stop tolerating breadcrumbs. You stop settling for inconsistent energy because you're no longer waiting for someone else to decide your value. You already know it. And that is what makes a man sit up and take notice. So ask yourself today, am I living a life that's so good his attention would just be the icing on the cake? Because that's the secret. Not chasing love, but becoming the kind of person love can't resist. You know, one of the biggest mistakes I see people make in dating, especially when they really like someone, is that they overgive. They text first all the time. They're always the one keeping the conversation going. They're quick to rearrange their schedule to fit his. And at first, it might feel like you're just being enthusiastic, like you're showing interest. But here's the problem. When you do all the work, he doesn't have to. You know, safe to say, when you're doing all the work, he doesn't have to. Attraction isn't just about how much you like him, it's about how much he feels drawn to you. And that only happens when he's putting in effort, when he's actively choosing you, when he's wondering about you. That's why the 70/30 rule is so powerful. It's not about playing games or being cold. It's about creating space for him to step up. Here's how it works. Let him initiate about 70% of the time, especially in the early stages. That doesn't mean you disappear or play hard to get. It just means you're not carrying the entire relationship on your back. If he texts you, reply with warmth and energy, maybe even flirt a little, but then let him come back to you. If he asks you out, say yes, if you want to, but don't be the one always suggesting the next date. Give him room to pursue you. Now, your 30% is where you get to be engaging, playful, and responsive. So this isn't about withholding, it's about balance. If you're always the one reaching out, he never gets the chance to miss you. He never gets the chance to wonder, what's she up to? Or why hasn't she texted me? And that wondering, that's where attraction grows. Think about it like a dance. If you're both moving toward each other at the same time, you'll crash. But if there's a rhythm, if one leads and the other responds, then it flows. Right now, if you're doing all the initiating, you're basically dancing for both of you. And that's exhausting. The magic of the 70/30 rule is that it takes the pressure off you and puts the responsibility on him to show up. Because here's the truth. A man who's truly interested will step forward. If he's into you, he'll text, he'll plan dates, he'll make sure you know he's thinking about you. And if he doesn't, then you have your answer, without ever having to chase him down. So stop carrying the weight of the entire connection. Let him meet you halfway, because when he does, that's when you'll know it's real. That's the difference between forcing his attention and earning his desire. You know, one of the biggest mistakes I see people make, and it's an easy one to fall into, is jumping into a relationship mindset way too soon. And I get it. When you really like someone, it's natural to start imagining what could be. You catch yourself thinking about future dates, how they'd fit into your life, maybe even little moments you'd share together. But here's the problem. When you start acting like you're already in a committed relationship before the other person is on the same page, it can actually push them away. Think about it. If you're texting all day, making plans weeks in advance, or expecting them to check in like you've been together for years, when in reality, you've only been on a few dates, it creates pressure. And pressure is the enemy of attraction. Men and people in general want to feel like they're choosing you, not like they're being pulled into something before they're ready. This doesn't mean you have to play games or pretend you don't care. It's about balance. Enjoy the moment without fast-forwarding to a future that hasn't been agreed upon yet. When you act like you're already in a relationship, you take away the excitement of the chase, the thrill of discovery, and the natural progression of things. And worse, you might start making decisions based on where you hope things are going, rather than where they actually are. For example, have you ever canceled plans with friends because he might ask you out last minute? Or found yourself waiting by the phone for his text instead of living your life? That's the relationship mindset creeping in too early. And here's what happens. He senses it. Maybe not consciously, but he feels the shift, the subtle expectation, the unspoken demand for his time and energy before he's decided he wants to give it. And that's when he starts pulling back. Instead, let things unfold naturally. Match his energy. If he's texting once a day, don't reply with 5 paragraphs. If he's planning dates a week apart, don't start suggesting weekend getaways. Let him set the pace in the beginning, not because you're passive, but because you're observing whether he's someone who's truly interested in stepping up. A man who's into you will make it clear. He'll want to see you more, talk more, invest more. But if you're doing all the heavy lifting early on, you'll never know if it's real or if he's just going along with it because you're making it so easy. And here's the thing. When you resist the urge to fast forward, you protect yourself too. You avoid getting emotionally invested in potential rather than reality. You give yourself the chance to see if he's actually worth your time, instead of bending yourself into what you think he wants. Because the right person won't need to be convinced or rushed. They'll meet you where you are, and they'll want to keep moving forward. So take a deep breath. Enjoy the early stages for what they are: fun, exciting, full of possibility. Don't skip ahead to a chapter that hasn't been written yet. Let him show you who he is, and trust that if it's meant to grow, it will, without you having to force it, because the best relationships aren't built on expectations. They're built on mutual desire, one step at a time. You know, one of the biggest shifts that changes everything in dating is this simple but powerful mindset flip. Stop asking, does he like me? And start asking, is he meeting my standards? Because here's the truth. When you make it all about whether he's interested, you hand over all your power. You're sitting there analyzing his texts, his tone, how long it took him to reply, and suddenly you're the one auditioning for him, and that's when things go sideways. A man can feel when you're putting him on a pedestal, when you're waiting for his approval. And ironically, that's the fastest way to make him lose interest. But when you shift to, is he meeting my standards? Everything changes. Now you're the prize. Now he has to step up. And that's not about playing games or being cold. It's about self-respect. It's about knowing what you deserve and not settling for less. And think about it. If a man feels like he's won you over too easily, if he doesn't have to put in any effort, why would he value you? We all value what we work for. That's human nature. So if you're always the one reaching out, making plans, accommodating his schedule, bending over backward to keep his attention, what does that communicate? That you're just hoping he'll choose you. And that's not attractive. What is attractive? A woman who knows her worth. A woman who isn't afraid to say, I like you, but I'm not desperate for you. A woman who has a full, exciting life and lets a man earn his place in it. That's the energy that keeps a man intrigued, that makes him think, wow, she's different. I can't take her for granted. So how do you actually do this? First, stop over-giving. If you're always the one initiating, pulling the weight, keeping the conversation going, pull back. Let him come to you. If he's interested, he will. If he doesn't, then you have your answer, and you haven't wasted weeks or months chasing someone who wasn't that into you. Second, get clear on your own standards. What do you actually want in a man? Not just surface level stuff, but how do you want to feel in a relationship? Safe, respected, excited, prioritized? If a man isn't making you feel that way, why are you sticking around hoping he'll change? And third, this is the big one. Fall in love with your own life first. The most magnetic women aren't the ones who need a relationship to feel complete. They're the ones who are already happy, already fulfilled, and a man gets to be the bonus, not the solution. When you have that energy, you don't settle, you don't cling, you don't panic when a guy takes a little longer to text back, because you know if he's not stepping up, someone else will. That's the real secret. Be the woman a man fights to keep, not the one he takes for granted. And the moment you start believing that, everything changes.